My name is Juana. I've never been anyone special. Since I was a child, I felt like I was just in the background. My older sister, Melissa, was the one everyone noticed. She was beautiful, smart, and always perfect at everything she did. People loved her. My mother, especially. She always said Melissa was her pride and joy. And me? I was just there. "You're so plain," she'd often say. "Are you really my daughter?" Her words stuck in my mind. Over time, I started to believe them. I thought something was wrong with me. Maybe I wasn't worth loving. My father was the only one who treated me kindly. He said I looked like him, and that made me feel special. But after he died 7 years ago, things changed. Without him around, no one stood up for me anymore. My mother only got worse. She kept saying I was a disappointment. Melissa had a good job, a kind husband, and a happy family. I was 38 and still single, working at an average office job. I wasn't rich, I wasn't married, I wasn't anything she wanted me to be. I felt like I didn't belong in my own family. When we sold our old house after Dad passed away, Melissa and her husband offered to build a new 2-family home. They invited me to live with them. At first, I didn't want to. I knew Mom would be there, and she never missed a chance to hurt me. But Melissa said I'd be helpful, especially with the kids. Her husband said it would be nice to have someone around while he traveled for work. I wanted to believe them. I wanted to believe I could be useful. So I agreed and moved into the new house with them. The beginning was quiet. I helped with cooking and took care of Melissa's children when she worked late. I picked them up from daycare and read bedtime stories. My niece and nephew called me Aunt Juana and hugged me with big smiles. I felt needed. But Mom kept reminding me I wasn't really wanted. She called me a burden. "Still not married? What a waste," she'd say. I told myself to ignore her. I had gotten used to her cruelty, but some words still hurt no matter how many times you hear them. I started feeling small again, like before. Melissa sometimes spoke up for me when Mom was too harsh. But even when she did, her voice sounded tired, like she didn't really believe what she was saying. I started to wonder if Melissa thought I was a burden too. I worked hard to be helpful, cleaning, watching the kids, never asking for anything. But Mom kept saying I was useless. "You live here for free," she'd mutter. It wasn't true. I paid my share, but that didn't matter to her. I began to feel like a ghost in that house, always around, but never really seen or respected. Then came the day everything fell apart. I came home from work and saw all my things dumped near the door. Clothes, books, even small personal things, all thrown in a messy pile. Mom stood nearby with a cruel smile. "You wouldn't leave, so I helped you out," she said. I felt frozen, like the world had stopped spinning. My heart raced, my hands shook. I bent down to pick up my things, but inside, I wanted to scream. Then Melissa walked in with the kids. She saw the mess and her face changed, but she didn't say anything. Not yet. Sarah, my niece, came over and asked what I was doing. I didn't know how to explain it to a child. Before I could answer, Mom said loudly, "See? Even the kids are confused. Better to get rid of the extra baggage." I looked at Melissa, hoping she'd finally say something. For a moment, she was silent. Then she spoke in a firm, calm voice. "If anyone needs to leave, it's not Juana. It's you, Mom." The room went quiet. Mom stared at her like she couldn't believe what she heard. I stood still, shocked too. Was this really happening? Mom tried to argue. "I'm your mother. You can't talk to me like that." But Melissa didn't back down. "You've hurt Juana for years," she said. "She's the one helping this family, not you. You don't cook, clean, or help with the kids. Juana does everything." I felt tears in my eyes, not from sadness, from relief. Finally, someone saw me. Melissa kept going. You even spent all of Dad's inheritance. Juana still pays her share here. What do you do?" Mom had no answer. For once, she was the one left speechless. And the silence felt like justice. Even Sarah spoke up. "Grandma, you're always mean to Aunt Juana. I don't like it." Mom looked around, stunned. Her perfect world was falling apart. Melissa moved fast. She found a small apartment for Mom near the train station. Within days, she packed her things and arranged for the move. I offered to help, but Melissa told me to rest. She was calm, strong, and cold, just like when she handled things at work. Mom didn't even thank her. She just complained. She tried to call me later, asking for money. I said no. I wasn't afraid anymore. Life after that felt lighter. The house was quieter. The kids were happier. Melissa smiled more. I finally felt like I belonged. Months passed, and then one day, I saw Mom at the grocery store. She was bagging groceries, working part-time. When she saw me, she came over and asked for money again. I said no, again. Her eyes were full of anger, but I didn't care. She had chosen this path. Now she was walking it alone. And for the first time, I didn't feel sorry for her. I felt free. Free from her words, her control, and her shadow. 2 years later, something amazing happened. I met Daniel. He was quiet, gentle, and never made me feel small. We got married the following year. At our wedding, Melissa and her husband gave me an envelope. Inside was my share of Dad's inheritance. "We saved it for you," Melissa said. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to cry. I had given up on being treated fairly, but here it was. Proof that I mattered, that someone thought of me, saved something for me. That night, I realized I had finally stepped out of the dark and into the light. A year after that, I gave birth to twin daughters. Holding them in my arms, I knew I had changed. I wasn't the same quiet, scared person who once let others decide her worth. I had grown. I was a mother now, a protector. I looked at my daughters and promised they would never feel unloved the way I did. Melissa brought her children over to see the twins. Her youngest, a boy, called them his baby sisters. Our children played together like family should. I watched them and thought, this, finally, is what home is supposed to feel like. We didn't talk much about Mom. She still lived alone in that small apartment near the train station. Melissa paid her rent, but never visited. I didn't either. Sometimes Mom tried to call, but I stopped answering. I had no hate left, just emptiness. She made her choices. Now she had to live with them. I once believed time would fix things, maybe bring us back together. But time doesn't heal people who never wanted to change. Time simply teaches you to protect yourself. And I did. My home, my daughters, my peace. I wouldn't let her near any of it. One day, I saw her again. I was shopping with my husband when I noticed her at the checkout line. She looked older, thinner, her shoulders slouched. For a moment, she looked at me but said nothing. I expected anger, or maybe sadness, but her face was blank. Maybe she had finally run out of things to say. I didn't stop to talk. I walked right past her. That moment proved something. I no longer feared her. Her words, her judgment, her bitterness. None of it could touch me now. I had built something stronger, something she could never destroy. Later that week, I told Melissa I had seen Mom. She just nodded and said, "I'm glad the kids didn't see her." Her voice was calm. We both knew Mom had no place in our lives anymore. Sarah, Melissa's oldest, once said, "Grandma made Aunt Juana cry a lot. I don't want her in our house." Kids see everything, even when we think they don't. That's why we decided to protect them from people like her, even if that person was family. It's strange, isn't it? How the people who should love you the most can sometimes hurt you the deepest. Looking back now, I know that everything I went through made me stronger. Pain shaped me, but it didn't define me. I found love, built a family, and created a life I'm proud of. I used to think I was plain, unwanted, forgettable, but I was never weak. I just needed time to see my own worth. Melissa and I, once so distant, now stand side by side, not as perfect and imperfect, but as equals. And my daughters? They will grow up knowing they are enough, just as they are. As for me, I've finally come home to myself.